We now move on to general question time. Question number 1, Neil Findlay.
To ask the Scottish Executive what steps it's taking to prevent an over-concentration of wind farms in particular areas.
Minister Fergus Ewing.
Presiding Officer, Scottish Planning Policy paragraphs 187 to 189 outline the Scottish Government's policy on spatial planning and cumulative impacts. SNH will shortly be publishing updated guidance on assessing cumulative effects and have also previously published the Siting and Designing Wind Farms in the Landscape document, which offers a steer on strategic planning for cumulative effects.
Neil Findlay.
On Monday, I visited the southern border of West Lothian. The Council Planning Officer who accompanied me showed me 3 operational sites, another with consent and yet another 4 in the planning system. Will the Minister visit this area with me to see how the current free-for-all is losing all credibility amongst the communities affected by over-concentration?
Fergus Ewing.
Well, I think when ministers are invited to attend a visit to any constituent, they don't do so in order to assess the preconceived conclusion which another MSP makes. They accept a visit in order to hear the views of local people without doing so in any preconceived basis. And I would suggest to the member that he has a very careful examination of the Scottish planning policies which I referred to in my original answer, to which he did not allude, because I can tell him that these were planning policies that very largely have been in place since the administration of the Labour and Liberal parties was in sway in this place.
Graeme Pearson.
Much has been said this morning about listening to Civic Scotland. Would the Minister realise that I have more than 200 letters in my office from communities all over Scotland expressing disquiet about over-concentration and related matters in wind farms? And will he take the opportunity to reconsider the situation just now and consider a moratorium on future developments?
Minister.
Well, I'm not sure, Presiding Officer, if this is the official Labour Party policy from the front bench, because, you see, if it is, then many communities, for example in the Highlands and Islands, which broadly welcome the creation of renewable energy projects, will not receive those projects, will not receive the benefits that they bring, will not receive the benefits of up to £5,000 per megawatt, the increased tariff announced by Scottish and Southern Energy just a few weeks ago. And in any event, the member, of course, knows in the debate in which he took part and which I answered, and to which I have alluded in my original answer to the first written question, that SNH are shortly about to be publishing updated guidance in assessing cumulative effects with which this question is concerned. And cumulative effects are increasingly a factor in determining onshore wind development proposals, and their relevance will logically continue to grow. Correspondingly, it's a factor which the Scottish Government takes very seriously indeed.
John Pentland.
To ask the Scottish Executive when the Minister for Housing and Transport last met the Scottish Housing Regulator.
I'm sorry, I thought you were asked for a supplementary. You'd press your button for that. Sit down, we'll come to your question number 5. Patrick Harvey.
I'm grateful, Presiding Officer. Does the Minister accept that a greater role for public and community ownership of renewable energy developments would help to undermine those who seek to feed and stir up unnecessary resentment and hostility to wind power developments?
Minister.
Well, I think I do accept that point in principle. I think, moreover, Mr Harvey makes a point which I understood was accepted by at least the front benches of all parties in this chamber, and I do work and will continue to work with members in trying to promote successfully community renewable energy schemes. And perhaps, as well as the stake of ownership which those communities have, the best upshot, particularly for those communities which are off gas grid and which don't have access to the same options as elsewhere in Scotland, is that they have access to lower cost electricity and heating bills in many cases and can have fuel justice, perhaps for the first time ever, in rural and island communities in Scotland. So, of course, this government will work with other members, such as Rhoda Grant, who has led this matter, I understood at least, in an official front bench basis for the Labour Party, and I very much hope that that will continue to be the policy of all parties in this chamber as we go forward this year, where this matter will receive great priority from this government.
Mary Scanlon.
Will the Minister ensure that the views of local communities and councillors are listened to, as there is currently a belief that any wind farm application referred to the Government will be approved, despite the strongly held views of many local communities?
Minister.
Well, of course we will. It is axiomatic to say that every case is dealt with on its merits, and of course each case is different. It turns on its facts. And I, as the Minister, will continue to deal with each case in terms of the law, on the basis of each case, and taking regard of all the representations that are made. And therefore, I do think that the point of principle which Mary Scanlon makes is a correct one, and one with which I have no hesitation but to agree.
Question number 2, Helen.